Now, I love it when I discover a new pattern, particularly a new older pattern. Well, this one today, I don't consider having discovered it because I found it when reviewing Fly Fishing Guide to New York State by Mike Valla. The pattern is a streamer by Chauncy Lively called the Leatherneck, and I don't think I would have ever stumbled on this thing if I hadn't read about it in Valla's book. And he said that Lively first wrote about it in an April 1981 issue of the Pennsylvania Angler magazine. And I loved seeing that because the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission has all of their issues archived as PDFs all the way back to the early 1930s. Now, if you are not familiar with that archive, I'll put a link to it in the description because it is truly a historic treasure. So Lively's article from April of 1981 was likely one of the first ones to talk about using fur strips for streamer wings. He does mention that Zonker streamers had been getting popular out west, and he talks a little bit about tying on Matuka style. But this one he came up with, as you'll see, it's a bit easier to tie than either of those. And it's also unique in that he uses a wire wrap for the whole body, which will definitely give it a little bit more weight. And in his article, he mentioned some tactics for fishing this thing. He said it's a great cold weather fly, and that with the pulsating fur, you can almost fish this thing without even stripping it. Now, Lively did use a natural rabbit and a copper wire, which is how I'm going to tie it for you today, but the color combinations on this thing are really endless. And you don't have to use rabbit. Use possum if you want to go bigger, or something like squirrel or muskrat if you want to tie it in a smaller size. But either way, this was a fun tie, and you know it's going to catch fish. And I can't wait to get out there and give it a try. So there it is in the vise, Chauncy Lively's Leatherneck. Not a really elegant looking pattern, but you got to think this thing's going to be pretty durable. It's also kind of hard to think that this fly wasn't really created until 1981. Now I'm tying this on a size 6, it's 3X long, barbless streamer hook. And I'm going to step up my thread to a 140 denier. You could probably go to 210 on this thing. Just catch it in somewhere toward the back, take it to the bend of the hook. Now he did say put a tail of red hackle barbs. I'm going to put a pretty decent sized chunk here, and you can make it pretty long because the overall body and tail is going to be pretty big itself. And you know, my thought here is make it thick. If you're going to go to the trouble of putting it in, make it visible. So I think that's going to work right there. Let's go ahead and just bury this, take our thread up front. Now we're going to catch in some copper wire, and I'm going to go with a size medium, which is one size bigger than a brassy. I'm going to catch it in up front, leave a little bit of room to tie off our Zonker strip when we get there. But I'm going to just catch it in up front. It'll make the body a little smoother and maybe add just a little bit extra weight. But before I get to the back, here's something I've learned on the last couple. Just pull it off to the side for your last couple of wraps. And I just kind of learned that by doing these last few minutes. Go ahead and park your thread up front. Now take a big Zonker strip. This is rabbit, because this is a big size 6 streamer. And it's going to have a tendency, the hair is going to be going one way. So you want the hair going toward the back. You don't want to put it in the wrong way. And so take a look at the leather. Got that right there. And we want the leather to be a body length. So that's about how long I want it to be right there. Take that to the back here. And then make a little opening. Right there where I've got it. So I've got a little bit of bare leather right there. And per his tying instructions, one wrap of this wire. So just do what you can to keep it on top. Pull it pretty tight. Okay, that's pretty tight right there. Now we got to pull all this back. And my first wrap, I'm going to just try to yank it right back up in there to help secure that first wrap that's holding it on top. And now, just touch and turns, wrap this all the way up. Now I should have mentioned, he said use 7 inches, take 7 inches of wire. I did about 7 inches one time and I came up a little short, so this is about an 8-inch piece. We'll see if this is gonna work. But if you have a rotary right here, you know, might be a good time to use it. I'm not, because I'm making a video and it gets in the way of the camera and all that. So I'll just speed this up right now so you don't have to watch in real time here. Okay, I pretty much ran out of wire right there, so I'm glad I used that extra inch. Maybe that's a tip. Depending on the size of wire you use, you might need about 9 inches of it. But let's go ahead and catch this in several wraps. I'm gonna go ahead, I don't know if I can helicopter this off or not. I'm gonna take my scissors, and don't worry, these are last year's scissors. I got the tape on it right there, noting that. Just get up in there and snip them. Wire snips would probably work right there as well. So let's just try to flatten this little nub out, and then I gotta, it's sticking up, so I'm gonna have to put a few loose wraps right here to just kind of bury this, but that's fine. We'll be perfectly fine right there. Now, pull this forward, leave your thread up there about where we want the middle of that head to be, and if you look at this leather, it's kind of stretchable. You can pull it pretty tight, and that is something he mentioned in his tying instructions, to pull it pretty tight. So let's create a little flat spot right there and then pull it tight and just hold it on top. I'm gonna do a little pinch wrap right here and then several to lock it in before I snip the front of that off. Now take a look, is that, yeah, that's coming on along the top about like we want. Now I can just use these same poopy scissors right here for cutting this big thick piece of leather. I mean, you could use your good scissors here if you want, but no need to really. Now let's take a few extra wraps right here, and we are going to put a throat on it. He does call for some red hackle fibers, just like we did in that tail right there. Now maybe a tuft just a little bit thinner than we did in the back, so I'm going to flip it over. And I do want them kind of long, maybe to the point hook, maybe just a little bit shy of the point. Let's see, a couple wraps and check it right there. I think that's fine. That's all the way to the hook point, but we'll be just fine with that right there. And you might want to lick your fingers, kind of pull this back if it gets a little unwieldy on you. And just build your big old streamer head right here. Okay, I think that's big enough. Let's do a quick whip finish here and see what we need to do for cleanup. Now I've got a couple of rabbit fibers coming out right there, and then I accidentally trapped one of those going forward right there. But I think we're good. Clean that up if you want, but I'm just going to put a drop of head cement on it, call this thing done. So there you go, Chauncy Lively's Leatherneck. Pretty cool looking pattern. I can't wait to get out in the water and try it. So I appreciate you watching, everybody. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.